Let's bring in Jim Hanson, President of Security Studies and U.S. Army Special Forces veteran. Jim, thanks for being here this morning. How did we get this so wrong? And was this just a major miscalculation of U.S. intelligence? And if so, how does that happen?
This is a major and a most embarrassing defeat in U.S. history. We lost more lives in Vietnam, but this debacle is more damaging to showing the failures of our institutions. The Biden team was busy making TikTok videos and feeding Joe ice cream. The Pentagon was busy studying white rage and planning pride marches, and a bunch of savages in sandals undid 20 years of work and untold billions of dollars. Anyone involved in the planning of this exit should be fired or court-martialed, along with anyone who ever reported that the Afghan army was in any way ready for duty.
Yeah, Jim, the Biden administration has essentially blamed former President Trump because he negotiated a troop withdrawal on May 1st. What do you make of that sort of passing the blame moment from the administration?
Joe Biden does not get to pass the blame. Donald Trump started a deal to get us out of the longest war we've ever fought, as we should have. We had no plan to win. The military leaders over the years had created this year after year of the same thing over and over again, as if that was going to change. Biden decided to go ahead and do this and assumed responsibility then for doing it competently, for failing to stop the advance of the Taliban on the Capitol while we were still there and our people were at risk, is 100% a failure of Joe Biden and his national security team to plan for that. Why weren't they bombing the approaches to Kabul when the Taliban was rolling in and we still had diplomats, civilians, and Afghans at risk? That's their fault.
Yeah, this is all about the execution of the withdrawal, or in this case, what appears to be a lack of execution, at least a lack of a plan anyway, for ensuring the safety of Americans over there, for ensuring the safety of the Afghan translators, making sure women and children would be taken care of. And to that point, it seems like the Biden administration has been caught so off guard and surprised by the events that we've seen unfold. And I'm not really sure why, because take a listen to what Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell had to say. This was back on May 6th, warning this could happen.
There's a high likelihood that the Taliban will be back in control of the country, maybe as early as the end of the year. We will end up in a situation much like we found ourselves in. Both Hillary Clinton and Condi Rice, two former secretaries of state, have expressed the same concern.
And he also went on to say that he worries about the future of Afghan women and girls. And we're seeing images over there of women's faces already being, whitewashed over on storefronts and different, billboards or, public places. I mean, what does the future look like for women and girls in that country? Because reports of what we're hearing are quite frightening, Jim.
It's dismal, and there's no question that there was no planning and there was no care taken to ensure that this handoff was done in a way that would keep them safe. Joe Biden has shown what everyone knew during the campaign. He is not competent to serve as president. It's time to look at the fitness of duty for him and basically everyone he has brought into power. There are a bunch of people who do not understand the dangerous world we live in, and we're seeing the horrifying results of that for the Afghan people and for U.S. strategic power the worldwide.
Yeah, and it's not just the future of Afghanistan that we have to worry about. It's the future of America and America's top general, General Mark Milley. He was on a call with senators yesterday, and he said the U.S. could face a rise in terrorism because of this complete takeover over in Afghanistan. He said terrorist groups like al-Qaeda could reconstitute in Afghanistan sooner than the 2-year defense officials had previously estimated to Congress because of the recent rapid Taliban takeover in the country. I think that's a pretty obvious statement. So how concerned are you that there could be another significant terrorist attack in the United States because of this?
Just leaving Afghanistan was not a bad idea. Leaving it in a way that makes America look weak and incompetent invites exactly what you said, the terror groups to go ahead and take a shot at us. I don't know why we haven't seen more generals and civilian leaders at the Pentagon walking out the door having resigned in disgrace. They should either be fired or an investigation done to see how we managed to let these people walk us into this kind of a debacle on the world stage. It's putting everyone in the United States at risk, and I want somebody held accountable for this.
Yeah, Jim, we're out of time, but real quick, I want to sneak this question in there. Do you think we are in a worse position now than we were 20 years ago after the results of what happened the last few days?
Sadly, yes. We should have deposed the Taliban in 2001 and just carpet bombed the country with leaflets saying, don't make us do that again because we'll bomb the country flat and then come back and make the rubble bounce. That would have been a smart move.
We'll get your copy of Winning the Second Civil War Without Firing a Shot by Jim Hanson. Jim, thank you so much for joining us this morning with your analysis.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.